Well, welcome everyone. Good evening. I'm super excited to do this talk because this is my favorite topic. So I get to nerd out and you get to listen. Don't leave. But the aim of this is really to provide you with some insights that I learned throughout my career and that changed my trajectory in life, really. And it was all about, I see we haven't used these yet. Yeah, that was your bit. So we'll start here then. And so the aim of this talk, it'll be about 10 minutes. It's not super long. The idea is just to share some of the things that I've learned in the last 20 years and to hopefully challenge the way you think about music in your life and how it can also benefit others. So before I do, I got to rewind a little bit and tell you how I got here. So I'll start with this. Does everyone here remember what this is? I know for a fact there's 2 people on our team that don't. But does everyone else do? Yeah. So my first Sony, I was a kid that was always listening to music. But when I got my first Sony, that was the first time that experience became personal. I was able to put the headphones on and I was able to listen to what I wanted to. And I mean, sad to say or not, that's never changed. I've always been the person with the headphones on, all through primary school, and there's evidence of this. This is my 1Q picture. So that is my first Sony there. I'm about, I think, 5. Also, the coolest jacket ever. But story for another time. But all the way through high school, I always had my headphones on as well. And to this day, I listen to a lot of music every single day. I have my headphones on all the time. The only thing that's changed is that I now understand why I do it and why it benefits me. As a kid, I didn't know. I just did it because it made me feel good. So I love this movie for many reasons, but The Moves is all about this. So as Steve mentioned, I started my career as a DJ in Ibiza. When I was 14, I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life because I loved discovering new music, and I couldn't think of a greater purpose in life to find new music and be able to share that with others. And my biggest goal was, how do I find the best music and how do I sequence that in a way where I can provide joy? That really excited me. So when I was 14 and broke, I did all the odd jobs I could in the neighborhood, and I got summer jobs to save up money to buy my first set of turntables and vinyl. Anyone here that doesn't have vinyl, it's a very expensive hobby. I don't recommend it. But I loved it and I was obsessed. And by the time I was 16, I was offered my first job as a professional DJ, which is crazy because I wasn't allowed in any of the clubs. So I worked the bars, but for many seasons, particularly when I was young, I would work from 8 or 9 in the night to 6 in the morning. Bear in mind I was 16 and I was also going to school. So you're all probably wondering what the hell my mom was thinking. But we had a very simple rule. She knew I was very passionate about this. I was very serious about this. I wasn't interested in drugs or alcohol at that time. I was interested in music. So in those days, the summer holiday in Ibiza was 5 months, which meant that at the start of the summer season, at the end, I was also in school. So the rule with my mom was simple. You show up, you pass your exams, you can be a DJ. And I did. And plenty of weird experiences. There's nothing weirder than playing in a club on a Monday night and seeing your teacher who's going to give you an exam 3 hours later. It happened a lot, but it was a great experience. I was very fortunate to be able to travel the world when I was very young. And I played, Beirut, Dubai, Shanghai, Sydney, Milan, played all over the world, and it was amazing. But the biggest takeaway for me was that everywhere I went, music impacted everyone the same. Race, religion, gender, didn't matter. Everyone experienced music in the same way. And I found that amazing. So amazing that I wanted to understand the science behind that. So thank you. I wrote this more as a joke, but whenever I'm in the US for work, you know what it's like there. They always say, what do you do? What's your name? How much do you make? And so this is kind of my phrase when I'm in the US. Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm a musicologist. Now, most people have no idea what that is. The last time I went through customs with Steve, the guy was like, oh, so you play a guitar. That's kind of the impression that people have. But I found this, which is actually the best way to explain what it is that a musicologist does. So musicologists are interested in how music is made, how people listen to music, and why music is heard in particular ways. Now, for me, my obsession was music taste. As a DJ, that's something you do. You're standing in front of an audience of strangers. You want to make them dance. You need to understand what works. So I wanted to understand music taste, to understand why you like what you like and how that impacts your body and brain. So I'm going to share some of these learnings with you today. Very short, but to understand how music impacts us, we need to understand how our brain and how our hearing works. So very basic, what is sound? Sound is a vibration in the air. It's a sound wave. And when your hearing picks that up, you hear it, obviously. It can be through air. It can be through another medium, liquid, solid, as we know. There's a funny joke about this. It's a dad joke, which I'm sure you would know about. Can you hear it if a bear does something? Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. So how does that work? When the sound wave reaches your ear, it enters into your auditory canal. And that then changes into an electric signal or pulse. And that gets sent into roughly the middle of your brain. And from there, it gets sent to other areas of your brain, depending on what sound you're processing. And when I learned this was the coolest thing I learned very early on. Every sound you hear triggers an emotional response in your body. So the way I'm talking to you right now, maybe if I speak a little bit like this, it triggers an emotional response, good or bad, right? That I found very, very fascinating. And so the reason that happens is once the signal goes into your brain, it then gets sent through your central nervous system, which is throughout your whole body. And so that's why you feel the emotions, because the central nervous system is responsible for your emotion and your sensation. So it stands to reason then that if every single sound triggers an emotion in us, there's good and bad sounds, right? I see a few people nodding. A few people don't believe me yet. Well, here's an example. That would have been more daunting if it was louder, but thank you. That's enough. But that's obviously not a pleasant sound. We all know what that sound is. And instinctively, whether you've noticed or not, your brain, when it hears that sound, it puts you in fight or flight mode. When you hear a sound that is a negative sound for you, your body goes into alert mode. Do I need to fight this off, or am I safe? It happens with every single sound that we process. So let's see this one. I see half of you smiling. So for some people, this could probably be a bad sound, but for others, this could be a good sound. The point being, though, is that the way you respond to that, because of how your brain works, you're not alarmed by this sound. You recognize it and you know it's safe. And to put that into another context, when you're walking in the city, and maybe you notice this tonight when you walk away, you hear all different traffic sounds. You hear people talking, the trams, whatever's going on. Your brain is aware and associates those sounds as the cluster of you walking in the city, for example. But if you're standing in a field in the middle of nowhere, and there's no sound but, you know, a breeze and maybe some water running, and you hear a car horn, your body is going to go into fight or flight mode because your brain is not expecting that sound in that moment. Make sense? Cool. So here's another good sound.
I see trees of green, red roses too.
Sorry, tapped out early. Whether you like this song or not, I can tell you that the response that your brain had to this was positive. And it's positive for two reasons, but I'll jump ahead. The main reason is that unlike any other sound, music is a group of sounds essentially in a particular structure. That's what music means by definition. Music is the only sound that triggers all the different areas of your brain at the same time. So it's quite literally a brain workout. Whenever you're listening to music, it stimulates all the areas of your brain. No other sound does that, and no other natural stimulant that we know of does that. And that's very powerful. Which brings me to music and mental health. So why does this work for mental health? First, to understand what we mean by mental health at Music Health, we actually look at sort of two categories. One is what we would all know as mental health, and the other is more brain health, but we actually grouped them together because all of these conditions can be supported by music in different ways. So if we think about the chemical or hormonal imbalance, it's anxiety, depression, PTSD. If we think of developmental differences, disease or injury, it's autism, dementia, Parkinson's. So one is a rewiring of the brain or parts of the brain missing, and the other one is a chemical or hormonal imbalance. But all of them can benefit from music. So if we take Parkinson's as an example, Parkinson's is a disease where there's a disconnect between the brain and the body. The messaging service, so if we think about that central nervous system that I mentioned before, there's a disconnect between the messaging there. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all, sometimes it happens delayed, and this causes all kinds of things like tremors and something else. Scientists have found that, I don't know if this video is going to play, so I'll explain it first and then we'll see if it lights up. But researchers tested on how they could use music with Parkinson's, and they found that when you use structured music, so music with a pronounced rhythm like tango, you can actually help your brain and your body get back into sync with each other again. And so it's a great tool to get somebody to reduce their tremors, but at the same time, again, it's also stimulating all the areas of the brain, which means it's keeping the brain active. So neurons are firing, the brain is stimulated. There's nothing worse for the brain. Think of it like an exercise for your physical exercise. If you don't do exercise, you're not going to feel great. It's the same for the brain. So this is a really powerful stimulus. And so let's see if this plays. It'll take a moment. But what's interesting here is looking at the color changes when listening to the music for somebody with Parkinson's. You get the gist. It's a very long video. But the point being is when somebody listens to music, all those areas are stimulated. And for somebody with Parkinson's, that means they can actually reduce tremors. Parkinson's can often also lead to dementia, Parkinson's dementia. And again, this is a way to keep the brain stimulated to slow down that regression. So really powerful, non-invasive, and easy to use. We're actually also looking at how do we build out an application like that for today's world. And when you think about pronounced music, it's not just tango, it's also hip-hop has a very structured beat, dance music, DJ from Ibiza, dance music works as well. So there's many ways that you can apply that, but the point being is that could be treated as a brain exercise that somebody does daily. Really powerful. Now, when we talk about dementia, whole different ballgame. So I'm oversimplifying this, but just to give you the general gist, dementia is the umbrella term for many different brain diseases. Alzheimer's is the most common. And Alzheimer's is a memory disease. So the memory shuts down, the brain regresses to a point where you're not able to do the most basic things yourself anymore, like getting dressed, eating, showering, etc. What's really interesting, though, in the research, and this is what this diagram is showing, it's not super clear, but if you see that little red dot at the top, that's where the music memory information goes into the brain before it spreads out to the other areas of the brain. And what you can see in the other images, it's not super clear, but where that music memory bit is, you'll see that the dementia doesn't actually attack that area. And when it does, it's only at the latest stages of the disease. So, when we are able to find music that activates that music memory, which is music from your past, we can use that as a stimulus or a trigger to then activate the other areas of the brain that are not working properly by themselves anymore because of the disease. So it's really, really interesting. The other way I like to talk about that is if you have like jumper leads for a car, when your battery is flat, you need to start it up somehow, and then the battery recharges itself by running the motor. That's kind of what happens with the brain. It doesn't have the prompt anymore to provide the stimulus in the different areas, which means we can't do certain things. So it needs that trigger, and that trigger can be music. Music is one of the most powerful triggers for our memory. So to give you an example of this, and I'm hoping that the video works. And if it doesn't, I'll get Ada down here to sing it. There we go. So before we kick that off, this is a very old video, but this is the video that Steve was talking about earlier. This is a short 4-minute segment of this. But I think this is the perfect segue to the really awesome panel that's about to happen. Because when we talk about this often, unless you live with somebody that has dementia, it's really hard to understand what's actually going on. And I know there's some people here that are experiencing this, so they know what I mean. But for everyone else, it's a very daunting experience that when you walk into a room and see somebody you've known your whole life not recognize you, it's very confusing for yourself. So what I want to show here, this is actually a friend of ours that started this program many years ago, and this is basically what we're doing, but the 2.0 version of it. I'll shut up now and let the video do the talking. Oh, good. That was my cue.
Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa.
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm all right. Fine. Wait.
Who am I?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know.
Okay, it's Cherry.
How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years.
Can everyone hear that, by the way?
He was having
Yeah.
seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly because he was always, fun-loving, singing, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do Singing in the Rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, he was good. He was always into music, always loved singing, dancing.
His name is Henry Dreyer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking more or less for religious music for him.
Okay.
Because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah?
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What do you want me?
Let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. his face assumes expression, his eyes open wide, he starts to sing, to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened, he's being brought to life.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm going to give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah.
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
Yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have one. I mean,
Do you like music?
yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound,
Did
beautiful.
Did you play music when you were did you like music when you were young?
Yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
Well, I guess, well, Cab Calloway was my #1 band guy. I like.
What's your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present wrapped around your tree. Ow!
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love. No matter. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music here. Beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, the dream. The Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let me see, Rosalie.
Yeah, it's an awesome video. Sorry the sound wasn't great, but a couple of observations here. This gentleman was inert, wasn't communicating properly, was feeling, as the lady mentioned, down and just not wanting to interact with anyone. After listening to his favorite song by Cab Calloway, which, by the way, amazing artist if you don't know the music, best swing out there. And he changed. He's able to communicate, still not, full conversation, but he's able to answer, respond, communicate. His memory is obviously working. He can sing along. He's singing a cappella there for a moment as well. And all of that just because of the music. And again, this is what you're going to hear on the panel now in a second. When you're working with somebody like this, or many people with dementia on a day-to-day basis, these little moments are life-changing. And that's really the mission here. So I'm going to stop talking because I could talk about this all night. I'll hand it back over to Steve. But I hope that gives you a little glimpse into the power of music for mental health. We will be writing a lot of this on our blogs about all the different areas of mental health. But today, this is about dementia. This is about sharing a song. And I'll just leave this as a challenge for everyone here. My share a song moment is Aretha Franklin's Think, because that's the song I grew up in. That's what I danced to in the living room with my mother. Thank you.